Welcome to Stay on Track podcast with Poolson Oden Law Firm. Danny Poolson, along with my amazing co-host, Carissa Oden. Our vision is to help 500 plus families battling injuries by year 2028.
Our motto is that we help people who are hurt. Our goal is to earn each client's trust by showing up for them every day. When we say at PO in our office, we think protecting others. We started this podcast to share knowledge, experience, and insights free of charge to better spread our vision and serve our communities near and far.
Today we're airing episode 13 of Stay on Track podcast with Poolson Oden Law Firm. In this episode, we are very excited to visit with Catholic Charities Archdiocese of New Orleans' very own volunteer coordinator, Christine Foy Jackson.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Miss Christine, I understand you're going to share with us today what it is that Catholic Charities does for the community and how others in the community can help your great cause.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Love it.
Very excited to be here, and I had to bring a lot of notes. I know, I got a little flack for that, but you'll find out the programs are just so extensive that it's hard to actually wrap your mind around everything Catholic Charities does. So that is the reason for the notes.
No, I'm excited as somebody that's grown up, Catholic and with the Catholic Church to hear all of the programs. So could you give us kind of like an overview of everything that, I don't know, do we have enough time for all of it? All the programs you do?
Yes. So it's been described to me, and I'm kind of the new kid on the block, but from the womb to the tomb. So we provide direct services. Part of our mission statement or statement of purpose is to walk alongside vulnerable populations to help provide for their needs. And as you can imagine, at various stages of life, we all experience being vulnerable or different situations that we're put in. I'm sure with your clients, the unexpected happens. And part of coming out of distressing situations is having support, other people that can come alongside you and either point you in the right direction or provide for your immediate needs. So Catholic Charities has programs from pro-life services, so from the womb, to we have a senior day facility that helps vulnerable seniors be able to stay in their homes by providing meals and recreation and medical services and everything in between. So we have Head Start centers for preschool age children, providing education and support. And then we have, some of our clients are homeless and have been referred to us because they're on the streets. And so our goal is to help individuals become self-sufficient, get them on their feet, provide, remove the barriers. There's barriers, also cultural barriers of language. So some of our groups are fleeing persecution and war. Some of them need to be reunited with family. So it's for someone who finds themselves in a situation where they don't know the language or they don't know the legal system. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't even know the school system. How can you manage and navigate when this is not your first language? Or maybe your education didn't afford you the knowledge. And a lot of it's cultural, too. So language itself is a barrier. But, I'm rambling, but it's kind of
great.
It's kind of coming alongside, not doing coming alongside, providing resources. I mean, we're talking about basic resources as well: food, shelter, clothing. We're talking about how to get into this education system, and maybe you have to advocate for your child, and you don't know what the expectations are of the teachers or who all the administrators are. So from the basic necessities of life to education to providing just the comfort of having someone and somewhere to go. So if I think about our PACE Center, which that's the senior day program I referenced, it stands for Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly, and I've had the privilege of going there and participating in some of the wonderful events they do for our seniors. There was one day where we did manicures, and you would think, the guys, they're not going to be interested in having their nails done. However, there were a few gentlemen who say, I need my nails trimmed. I need a little, you know, and I literally felt like I was doing God's work, sitting with the gentlemen, talking with them. I got to hear their stories, their life experience. It was just so invigorating, and it was needful. His nails needed a trim, to need a little brush up. But it really is amazing how that impressed upon me. If you want to find God, you have to go where he is, and where is he? He's serving, he's walking alongside, and not just, doing for, it wasn't necessarily a material thing I gave to this, the gentleman, but it was being there to hear his story. And I definitely felt as enriched as I hope that he felt, with having, some other volunteers were there too. So, but having our presence there. So I hope that kind of gives an idea. We also have pregnancy adoption services, a diaper bank, clothing bank, where parents can pick up diapers for their babies, and clothing. I was informed that we have the oldest adoption service in the area, and it's a process, for parents that want to be adoptive parents, but we serve and facilitate adoptions. It's a small number, because and I'm glad, to have this opportunity to talk on the podcast, because it's all word of mouth. There's no marketing necessarily. You might see, bus signs at the bus stop, adoption is a loving choice with our symbol, but a lot of it's word of mouth, and so, we just keep doing the work, providing direct services, and, I feel like God fills in the gap and kind of takes our little bit of crumbs and multiplies it, in people's lives. So
I'm hesitant to even talk right now, Christine, because the way you speak and how you speak is compelling and moving. 100%. And can I jump in here with something that so many things you said give me goosebumps. I literally have goosebumps right now. And so as most of our folks know, Carissa and her husband, saints walking among us, right? Adopted two amazing children. And I recently got a Catholic Charities mailer, and inside the mailer, I open it, and it's just surreal. One of my best friends growing up playing Little League is Lane Dugas, and he's in the newsletter, and he just adopted through Catholic Charities.
Amazing. That's
We played Little League together. We went to Jesuit day camp together, grew up with this guy, and he's in the Catholic Charities newsletter. And so I think when you speak for Chris and I, a lot of the things you say are very consistent with what it is we try and do when we talk about working alongside and just being there. And it's not necessarily in the stuff, it's in the moments.
Yes. So true.
Right?
Yes.
My husband and I went on that journey to adopt. We started with Catholic Charities, and it was so helpful. I mean, we sat down and we had no idea what to do. And it was by word of mouth, a friend of a friend. And Catholic Charities offers such a better option because of the cost. I'm a big advocate that adoption we should try to make that more affordable, but most agencies, they don't have options for you if you don't have this big chunk of money sitting in the bank to try to help with the cost of that. And they were wonderful. I mean, we ended up on a different path with the birth mom, but we checked in with them with our second adoption, same thing. And the resources were amazing, and they were so helpful, and what I was impressed by is just the non-judgmental, like these mothers would come and they have so much that they're dealing with.
Yes.
With this whole concept of, what they, giving away a child. And anyway, they were wonderful.
Yeah. So. I agree, Carissa. And it's the education aspect, because you don't know where you're going to end up in life. And a lot of times you don't know what your trials are going to be or your blessings. And it's kind of like you have to do the best with what you have. But when you don't know anything, you're on a journey of discovery. And it helps so much to have individuals who, they've seen these issues before. They've been in it. They can offer that help. So, yeah, definitely it is being alongside and with, and offering that expertise that really does make a difference. And I had another thought, but it just escaped my mind. Hopefully it'll come back.
Yeah, and I would. The only thing I was going to say too is I love that Catholic Charities, when they talk about adoption, I know there's so many programs y'all do other than just this.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea of it being open with the birth
Yes.
mom and having that relationship.
Yes.
I know when we walked into that room, my husband especially was kind of blown away by that, because that wasn't anything we'd ever thought of. Like, it would just, we thought, okay, no communication, no
Right.
interaction. And our birth mom, actually, her sister had a set of twins that she had adopted with Catholic Charities, and just, she's still close to that family,
That's
right? And that's
wonderful.
because of Catholic Charities, that she felt good enough to be able to still communicate with that family and be part of those children's lives. And
Right. And to know that they're well.
yes,
You know,
and they have a great dynamic. All of
Yes.
them, it's like they're more loved, right? They have adoptive parents. They still have their birth mom that's in their life, and it's just, it all works.
that's wonderful.
Which
And
was, anyway, we learned that at Catholic Church.
that is wonderful. Yes.
Stop
and
talking.
That's a great point, because I would have forgotten to mention that, because I did an interview with one of the staff there, and you can't remember everything, so your experience speaks for that. But that brings up, or reminds me of the point I wanted to make. A lot of the barriers are stigmas or untrue beliefs that we carry around because we've never been exposed to a particular situation. And so I would say, and this kind of jumps ahead to the point, how can someone help? Raise your awareness. It's not, in this, political, snippets that are thrown out are not representative of people's actual situations. And you got to be really careful about having a lot of opinions of issues and people groups that you're not exposed to, because a lot of times we're fed one, and a lot of it's through entertainment or, just politics, but we have to be careful of having a lot of opinions, situations that we're not exposed to, because once we are exposed and our awareness is raised, we see all the nuance of these situations that people are in. So it's really difficult to judge people when you really walk a mile in their shoes, or attempt to,
Right.
because, prayerfully, none of us wants to experience a lot of the hardship and the suffering that people are having to deal with, or maybe we make a mistake, and we have to get ourselves out of that, and it judgment really is a hindrance, in helping people.
So
and
true.
so I would say that's probably a number one way that folks who are interested in the type of work that Catholic Charities does, raise your awareness, listen to multiple points of view, try and meet people that are not like yourself, meet different groups of people, examine your own thoughts. For example, I went to a dual language program meeting, for my 5-year-old. I was interested in other placement opportunities for her for public school. And, the choices are real limited. You live in a certain zone and they tell you this is where you have to go. And so I'm sitting in the meeting and they're talking about the dual language program. And I had to examine myself, because I'm thinking, I'm used to English being the dominant language everywhere I go, and so you have teachers saying, well, 80% of the language is going to be Spanish, and then we incorporate a little bit of English. And I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't feel too comfortable, and so I just took a step back and I said, well, why am I uncomfortable with that? And they're sharing about, the dynamic test results that they get from bilingual educated children. And so it just was a reminder to me that, if I occupy the dominant space in a certain area, especially culturally, I have to really, really be careful in my thoughts, and also my assumptions. We live with a lot of assumptions, and a lot of them are not based on fact. They're based on what has been fed to us. And so it's really, really important that we try and be as open as possible towards others and see the similarities between myself in someone else and not see the otherness. And that is really because we have as much to gain from the people that we're helping as we have to give, and probably more. You know, if we look at the Bible, probably more, because the Bible says, blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You know, it doesn't say blessed are the rich. For the rich, it says it's hard to get into heaven. You know, so
Y'all got work to do.
y'all, look, y'all got to become like little kids, because I don't like these questions I'm getting. You know, they didn't have, you know, I was just feeding the 5,000. They didn't ask me all this. You know, I didn't have to, you know, produce certain miracles for them to see who I was. You know, so it just makes you really think. You know, everything's upside down and backwards, you know, and we really, really have to swim upstream to stay connected, as you mentioned in your introduction, connected to what is my real value here? What am I really working for? You know, and I think when you walk alongside, you experience the reciprocation, you know, and so I think that is a wonderful goal to have, and it really does open your eyes. It opens your eyes. So that's a main thing. And as you mentioned, Carissa, the open adoption, you know, it not a subtraction, it's an addition, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah, all I'm going to do on this episode is just say how awesome you are and preach, real talk. I mean, it's remarkable. And again, we've been, you know, a little background, giving Miss Christine grief. You know, we've done several donations with Catholic Charities, and for Chris and I, when we go, you know, we'll say things like, "Well, where's the families? What can we meet? Can we share? Whatever." And so we started a couple years ago bothering Miss Christine, right, and just kind of showing up and just kind of wanting to be involved. And I can say, Christine, no question, you're in the right place at the right time, and when you speak, you're landed on a lot of ears. I mean, it's remarkable what you do and what y'all do, and on so many. I mean, we don't have enough hours in the day to touch on everything you've addressed, but it's really special. And when you, I think, you know, philosophically but spiritually, you know, if you lead with love God, love your neighbor,
yes. Right?
If that's, and I agree with you about inverted or whatnot, and I certainly don't want to go too much on a tangent, but for us and our practice, what we focus on, you lead with God, right? We're doing His work, and that's where we start. And so you love God, you love your neighbor, then everything else really should fall into place. And I'm definitely not the one to be preaching sitting at this table with these two amazing ladies, but I mean, I don't know if that resonates at all. But when you talk about assumptions and the political tone that's out there now, or the reality is, regardless of the noise, love God, love your neighbor.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And it's on our mission statement and our purpose statement, you know, to be consistent with the Catholic ethos, which is service, faith leading to service. And so the program staff, my position is very interesting because we have 20 plus programs. Obviously, I'm not hands on in each one of those. So I did have to reach out and educate myself a lot about the service that's going on, but the program staff and case managers are providing direct service to individuals that have been referred to the organization or have come in contact with the organization based on the particular program that they're in, whether it's language education, mentoring, housing for the homeless, services, providing transitional housing until folks are on their feet, or protecting those that have been incarcerated from going back to prison, by providing that network of support and employment. The economy is really working against a lot of those initiatives, but that's the area that we're trying to help people in, is helping them become economically stable. And so, a lot of people don't have support. They may not have a strong family network. And that's where the difficulty comes. You're high risk when you don't have that support. And so, we try and fill in that gap as best we can with the resources that are going to help people be self-sufficient.
So for our listeners out there, what are ways that they can get involved or contribute to any of the Catholic Charities initiatives, whether it's during the holidays or during off season, whenever.
Right. Well, we always receive financial donations, and those are routed to the programs as needed. So that's one big way. And we've already talked about raising your awareness as a community member. A lot of people who are interested in volunteering with Catholic Charities are already pretty much plugged into their community, their parishioners, their worshipers, and they're looking for additional ways to give back. So, some feedback I got from the programs is, ask yourself what you're passionate about. I know there's so many programs, it's hard to, route, service in a specific area, but you can do some self-reflection and ask yourself, what are my gifts and talents and what am I interested in doing? And then we can do our best to find a way for you to plug in, because a lot of these programs, anonymity is required, and you have to have maybe a social work license or something in order, because you're dealing with sensitive information. So, we'll try our best to find a place for you to fit in. But there are 4 specific programs that are always taking volunteers. PACE, the Senior Day Program. Refugee Services has the mentoring and the ESL, which is English as a second language. We have Padua House. Those are clients in a residential facility who are being cared for at a moderate or high level because they have either a certain brain or intellectual disability that or physical limitation that they cannot care for themselves or even remain in their home with care. But other than those opportunities, we do have, as you mentioned, Danny, a huge drive during Thanksgiving and Christmas where we match up families and or clients based on a wish list that they might submit to donors anonymously, and so they're sponsored for Christmas gifts or Christmas needs, and that is a huge effort that we do every year. And surrounding that time, we do have availability for volunteers to help receive gifts, help with tagging. We have a huge staging area where we have to move everything around, take some muscle. We also receive what we call care bags at that time. And we'll talk a little bit more about this because Poolson Oden has been very involved in helping with hygiene items. That's something that's needed throughout the year, but also at Christmas, you can assemble a care bag, which would be essential hygiene items, soap, shampoo, conditioner, lotion type things, with maybe some fun items thrown in, crossword puzzles or books or things like that, that we like to distribute along with the other material items because it's always needed and it makes people feel comfortable. So, whatever's in your heart to do, you can do it. And let's see what else. What am I leaving out? Financial contributions, those few programs that consistently receive volunteers, and then Christmas and Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, we also receive food baskets with shelf-stable items that kind of are the trimming for a traditional Thanksgiving meal, and or just shelf-stable items like beans, rice, peanut butter, canned chicken, things like that. So people do, they can take it upon themselves even to do a diaper drive, because with the pro-life services, a lot of times, people, they submit the cute little onesie, that, they can wear for the first 3 weeks. And then when
they're out of it. Yeah.
That 6 to 9 months, it doesn't last as long as you might think, and they can't wear the cute little, so they might need, 18-month to 3-year-old, size clothing, or the diapers, those newborn diapers don't last very long. We need the, it's time to get potty trained size diapers, so
It's moving along.
It's so true. Yeah.
I know, but it's, it's real talk.
Real talk. I love it. And for anybody listening, Miss Christine's got about 2.5 inches of notes here. She hadn't looked at them once. Talk about prepared.
I know. Huh? It's very prepared.
Well, listen, it's my first podcast. So I did not know what to expect and, just over prepare.
No, you're awesome. You talk about raising awareness and things that you get to see that we don't see. Do you have any particular story or memory or experience that that you want to share with us to kind of, something that's been meaningful, something that stuck out to you, kind of like you described,
Yep.
with the bilingual communications
Yep.
and those sorts of things where you're the majority. Something you want to share?
Yeah, definitely. Since we're talking about Christmas and Thanksgiving, which is wild, trying to liaise and administer that program, because just the sheer volume of gifts that we receive and the number of clients that are, presented or nominated for sponsorship is how I like to say it. So the number of people you have to match to donors and the number of donors that consistently participate. So we have large groups that this is their thing. They love doing getting names and doing an angel tree and really putting a lot of time and effort and TLC into fulfilling those wish lists. As my first time being the main person to administer it in 2024, what really stood out to me, besides the generosity of donors, is how God came in and made sure people were not forgotten. So, human error, maybe someone forgot to post someone's wish list or at the last minute, new clients were added to a program and, oh my goodness, there was no time for them to formally submit their wish list. All of a sudden, boom, boom, getting emails. Oh, can someone, there's a family, dad and 3 kids, and all they're asking for is clothes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you know that this family is coming out of a situation where they're just seeking stability right now. They're not even, the dad's not asking for toys. They're asking for clothes. What are we going to do? We cannot not get something for this family. And then right after that email comes in, another email comes in from a previous donor. Oh, I saw all the families on the website were adopted, but I would really love to participate. Do you have anyone that still has a need? So boom, it's like God made that match. Mm-hmm. And, once again, I will say that this law firm participated in that and was able to get some items that not just useful during Christmas, but useful throughout the year, and it just gives you such a warm feeling, especially during that season when, the need is there. And to a lot of times I tell people when God answers a prayer, it's about the thing you ask for, but it's also knowing that someone hears you and someone has the ability to help you. And they did, and so that really touched me. I saw that happen 3 or 4 times. And then when the gifts and the donations came in, they're nice things, they're, things that you would want. and it's like, ooh. And it's just, it's the love and the effort that is put into it. And then, so, I've gotten pictures back. I know a lot of it's anonymous, so you don't really know, okay, I wish I could talk to the family and see the difference the gift made. But case managers are sending me pictures of, a little girl on her bike, doing a heart sign, and it looks like the bike was made for her. It looks like she went out and picked out this bike, and so just having the knowledge that, what, you're doing God's work and he makes sure that what needs to get put together with the person, it does. And so, it's that little element of faith where, you don't see, as much as you would like to see, but, rest assured, I did receive pictures and just feedback from case managers that, those gifts landed, and the families, a lot of times they're starting over. If you can imagine getting to a certain point in your life where, I'm successful, I have a career, boom, you have to start over. And so it's just the encouragement. It's the encouragement of people opening their hearts. Yeah, it doesn't solve every problem, of course not, but it's an encouragement. And that's what we want to do, is encourage people to keep going, because everybody, we all have to carry our own load. We all have to get through each day, and this is something that can encourage people. Okay, you take one more step, you can make it through today.
Inspiring.
It is. And it sounds like there's probably a lot of success stories. That's probably very fulfilling too, to see families that may have had a need and now they've moved to where they're okay.
It is very, and that's the whole goal. That's why we exist. And that is the motivating factor of our work.
you inspire us, with everything you do. And again, the only thing I'm contributing is giving praises to Miss Christine, right? I mean, it's inspiring what you're doing. And I think, challenging our viewers to I love how you said, identify what your gifts are, and then reach out to Christine and see what it is you can do or what service you can offer. Because I think as Americans, we're very blessed with too much, right? We talk in our office less is more and being intentional. And the reality is hygiene products, right? Things that we take for granted, having toothpaste and soap and things like that. I think from a very basic needs standpoint, we have more than we would need in 10 lifetimes as Americans. And we're so lucky, and focusing on what we have versus not what we don't have, right? An attitude of gratitude. And I think, Christine, you embody that. And that's why we've been drawn to you, and we're focused on what it is you do with your group at Catholic Charities, because a lot of what you do, we strive to do here as well. Right, partner? I mean.
No, and I think, to brag on my partner, I mean, one of the things that I thought was amazing that he did with his kiddos, right, is for their birthday. I mean, they had us, what they wanted was for us to bring, hygiene products and things that, they could donate. And I'm so inspired by that. I mean, he's an awesome individual. I mean, you've met him. He's, that, having that, and then seeing that, it's like moving it forward, right? You teach your kids these things. You hope that stays with them, and they become, humans that want to give and be grateful. Because I know I have 3, and mine they're spoiled. I tell them all the time, they have everything that they don't want for anything. And I'm blessed that I can do that, but they need to see in others that there's a need, right? And I think as children, they get excited about that. They love that. I mean, I know Davis and Amelia, they were excited to have us contribute to that at their party. And then, and Danny, I'm sure can speak to it more, like when they probably went to go give the things. It just, it's awesome. And I think inspiring, our kids and their friends, and it spreads, right? Like that was a conversation that I had with my 3 when they did that. They wanted to know where the things were going and why and those things. And that, mine want to do that now, right? Now they were like, Mom, I still get a present from a birthday, right? But they do, just having in their little minds that there's other people that need things, right? I don't know that they think of that sometimes because they're so
used to
taken care of it.
having.
Yes.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine something that you don't experience.
Yeah.
And that's why we're talking about exposing ourselves or meeting others that are not like that. But I totally get what you're saying, Carissa, because my daughter is the same, and, she was my firstborn, and it did cater to her, and it is an uphill, battle to teach, but I do think they catch on. I really do. And, having something like a sacrificial a hygiene drive is going to stay with them, and also the feeling, of accomplishment and pride to drop off those items. And I am trying to get, either a note of thanks or just an explanation, because it did go to our homeless services program, which they take anything, my response from that program is anything you can give, anytime is always going to be helpful, because once again, you're dealing with folks that are starting over and don't have,
right.
And so, but, getting them involved is really, really important. I mean, even this morning, my 5-year-old's like, she's used to having so much fun, and I love doing stuff with her, but she's like, I'm bored. I'm like, it's 6:00 in the morning. You just woke up. You're bored. Like, what is this? Disney World?
Oh, no.
I said, get over here and help me make this lunch.
Yeah.
Mom, do a trick.
Yeah.
I'm like, my trick is being able to open my eyes.
Good morning.
Yeah, good
Right.
morning.
Okay, so I say, get over here and help me with this lunch. And do you know her participation? She got into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, how can we get y'all into this?
And I'll tell you for Carissa, thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it. But I tell you the we're very blessed where we go to my kids go to a Catholic school. We're very involved in the community and church, and we believe in that, right? And the conversations that were had based on the donation, it was spreading. I felt like we were spreading God's word, because so many parents were confused, right? They're like, hang on, you sure? Hold up. I'm coming to the party and you want me to bring what? Wait, hang on. You don't want me to go to the toy store? Are you sure? Mm-hmm. And it gave me and Amy an opportunity to educate them on, look, this is what we're doing. This is why, right? So who knows what seed was planted and took, who knows what fertile soil was there to spread it. But it was our little way and our little community and our little world that we're very lucky to be in, right? Yes. To spread the word. And the other thing we challenge our kids too, is when we get presents, for every present we get in, we give a present away, right? Because, in a lot of stuff, they're the oldest of their cousins, so their younger cousins get a lot of good stuff, right? Some of the stuff's not even worn, right? I mean, they're very blessed. So we challenge that as well, because it's not about stuff, it's about the memories.
Yes.
And the memories, and sometimes contributing or donating creates memories for people who do without. And so for that, again, you're amazing, and we appreciate everything you and Catholic Charities does.
Definitely.
Yeah, and there's so much to learn. I am the new kid on the block. I've been there about a year and a half, but there's so much to learn. And, the staff are so humble about what they do. It's hard to get it out of them. Mm-hmm. It's hard to really get the scope of, what they're doing, because they're not going to brag. They're not going to brag on themselves, but you have to get in there and say, okay, whoa, you're telling me some stuff that's really important and impactful for a lot of people, and you just multiply that over the number of years some of them have been serving, and you get an idea of how many families and clients and individuals have been assisted.
Because Catholic Charities, how long has the programs been in existence?
I mean, we're going back to colonial.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I don't want to say disputed, but can go back to the arrival of the Ursuline nuns in the 1700s, and over time things have changed, and kind of been incorporated. But we just celebrated our centennial, formally as Catholic Charities, 100 years. And but the work, obviously is existent in other forms previous to that, but at least 100 years. And the education and caring for orphans have kind of been the start of Catholic Charities. We had homes for mothers and homes for orphans, which are, have morphed into guilds, so groups of ladies that serve and have projects that they do every year targeted towards helping children and educating children. So it's
amazing.
The history is there. I mean, I'm not a historian. You can look it up, but the history is there with these programs. So.
And again, still haven't referred to any notes.
Yeah. They're there. They comfort me.
Yeah. It's like if I need to look, they're right here.
Look, not that I can read my handwriting. Like
you fit in good at the law.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
Definitely.
Miss Christine, you got any closing thoughts? You've shared so much with us, and
man.
We're so grateful for your time.
Closing thoughts. We all have something to give. And we're all doing our best. And this thought occurred to me. I feel like the Lord told me, you did the best with what you had. It's easy for us to compare ourselves to others because we all want to be successful, especially American culture. You want to be on top. But, most of the time we're doing the best that we can. And once again, we don't always get to choose our blessings or our trials. So, it's the parable of the talents. Maybe, I can't give 100. Maybe can I give 10? Maybe I don't have 60 minutes, to play with my child, but, I could turn the TV off for 10 minutes and play with them. It's like, what am I giving right now? We all have something to give. And that's what I want to say. You have something to give. You have a contribution on this earth, and we got, find out what it is.
Right.
Find out what it is and do it. And you're going to be rewarded, now and, in the future. So
contact Miss Christine with your talents and volunteer and your gifts.
Yeah.
Right.
Nonprofit, we will figure out a way if it doesn't exist.
We will use you to do something.
We can make something. And we do have events that happen sporadically throughout the year that, maybe we can't plan necessarily right now. For example, we did in September have a World Migrant and Refugee Day, which was an educational kind of roundtable, really fun event where you got to experience different cultures, see people drew and decorated their flags, and you got to learn about oh, what does this stand for? What does this symbolize? So once again, being, that was an opportunity. So opportunities do come up every once in a while, so we can always stay in touch. But yeah.
What's the best way for people to look for those kind of things on website?
Yeah, we have cano.org, CCANO, which stands for Catholic Charities, Archdiocese, New Orleans, cano.org. And you can read about our programs there, and you'll look for a tab called Ways to Help, or how you can help volunteering. And we try and keep that updated as opportunities available to the public would be available. So, or you'll see my email on there too. You can contact me directly. Email's the best way, and I will get back to you.
Do you want to give everybody your email address?
Yes, it's CM No Jackson. That's the hard. Okay, that's the hard thing about changing your name. It never gets changed everywhere. I mean, my health insurance still has Foy. I'm like, okay, whatever. CM Foy at cano.org.
Awesome.
cmfoy@cano.org. And now we're going to roll in an episode 2 based on this whole last name thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
No, we just appreciate you being here. Really, it's awesome, and we so enjoy helping. So
yes,
anything you got, tell us.
Yeah, I'll throw it your way for sure.
Love that.
Yeah, even though the anonymity that gets us sometimes, but that's all right.
Yeah.
I'll try and get some reports for you.
It helps us. No, that's God saying, Danny, Chris, work on your faith.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Work on your faith.
Yeah.
It's going. Yeah, for sure. That does it for episode 13 of Stay on Track podcast. Our vision is to help 500 plus families battling injuries by year 2028.
Our motto is that we help people who are hurt. Our goal is to earn each client's trust by showing up for them every day. When we say PO in our office, we think protecting others. We started this podcast to share knowledge, experience, and insights free of charge to better spread our vision and serve our communities near and far.
For everyone listening in, thank you very much. Tell us something good. Please like us on social media and share our vision statement so others may learn more about what we do and who we can help. For my amazing partner and co-host, Carissa, and for our amazing guest, Miss Christine Foy Jackson, I'm Danny. Thank you for staying on track with Poolson Oden Law Firm.
Thank you.
Thank you.